There's a lake under a Tennessee cow pasture so big that divers have never found its far wall. A Pennsylvania town that has been on fire from below since 1962, and ground in the south that keeps shaking along faults no one has ever found. Most people see blue ridgelines and fall color and think they've seen Appalachia. They've seen the LED. And by the time we reach number 1, you'll understand why the ground under Tennessee is still moving, and why nobody can point to the thing that's moving it. One thing before we go down, and then I won't bring it up again. Everything in this video, and the investigations that didn't fit, are gathered in one place, the Appalachian Mysteries Collection. The link is below. That's all. Now, down we go. Number 18. The lake with no far shore. America's largest underground lake sits beneath ordinary farmland near Sweetwater, Tennessee, and nobody has ever found where it ends. Craighead Caverns has been a commercial attraction since 1965, which makes it sound tamed. It isn't. Picture the glass-bottom boat they run down there. Water so still it reads as black glass. Rare stone flowers blooming from the ceiling above your head. The visible lake covers about 4.5 acres, and people have known about this cave for a long time. The Cherokee used it, and Confederate miners scraped saltpeter off its walls in the 1860s. That's the tour. Here's what the tour can't show you. Divers pushing past the tourist chamber with sonar have swum into flooded rooms beyond the lake and kept finding more water. Room after room. No boundary has ever been surveyed, which means the lake you ride across is just the ceiling of something bigger, sitting under that farmland, and nobody can tell you how big. The tour ends at a railing. The lake doesn't. Number 17, a hole 586 feet deep. The deepest unobstructed cave drop in the continental United States is not in the Rockies. It's not out west at all. It's inside a modest-looking Georgia mountain called Pigeon Mountain, and it falls 586 feet in one vertical shot, deeper than the Washington Monument is tall. Ellison's Cave threads more than 12 miles of passage through that limestone. And Fantastic Pit is its centerpiece. Now stand at the lip in your mind and drop a rock. It falls in silence. Seconds go by. Then the sound comes climbing back up out of the dark to find you. The geology is ordinary, water-eating limestone over immense time. The experience is not ordinary anything. This is no tourist cave. No lights, no stairs, no railings, and it has killed experienced cavers, people who knew exactly what they were doing. Here's what it does to the postcard. The Appalachians get sold as soft, worn, gentle old hills. Underneath those hills is a drop that rivals any cliff face in the eastern half of the country, and it has never once seen daylight. Number 16. Winter trapped in the rock. There's a hillside in West Virginia that exhales winter in July. Ice Mountain, a preserve above the North River in Hampshire County, is a slope of loose, broken boulders piled against the mountainside, and deep inside that rock pile, ice survives the summer. Kneel at one of the little vents at the base in August heat, and cold rolls out over you. The mechanism is understood. Dense winter air sinks down into the voids, ice forms deep in the pile, and the mountain spends the warm months slowly leaking refrigerated air from underneath. But the cold isn't the story. What lives on the cold is. Those vents feed a stranded colony of northern plants, species whose relatives grow hundreds of miles away up toward Canada, surviving in this one spot as leftovers from the last ice age, kept alive by air conditioning coming out of the ground. How long that lasts as the climate warms is a question the scientists who manage it take seriously. So here's the situation. The ice age ended everywhere else 10,000 years ago. Under this one hillside, it hasn't gotten the news. Number 15, the valley under the mountains. The most photographed valley in the Smokies is a hole punched through the mountain's own logic, and almost none of its 2 million yearly visitors have any idea. Cades Cove is the postcard, an 11-mile loop, log cabins, deer in open pasture ringed by peaks. Now stand in that pasture and take in what's actually true. The rock under your boots is younger than the mountains looming over you. That should be impossible. It happened because the Smokies are built from ancient rock that got shoved up and over younger limestone along a massive fault, an entire mountain range sliding across the landscape like a rug pushed over a floor. Cades Cove is what geologists call a window. Erosion wore clean through the old sheet and exposed the younger floor hiding underneath it. This is settled science, not speculation. And it means the prettiest valley in the park isn't in the mountains at all. It's under them, looking up through a hole. Hold on to that image, one sheet of rock riding on top of another. It comes back at the very bottom of this list. Everything so far you could visit, photograph, or drop a rope into. That was the easy layer, the underground that nature built. The next stretch of the map was put underground by people, sometimes on purpose, sometimes by catastrophe. And the thing waiting at number 1 was never put there by anyone at all. Number 14, Congress under a hotel. For 30 years, guests at one of America's most elegant resorts slept above a secret shelter built to hold the United States Congress after a nuclear strike. Under the Greenbrier Resort in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, between 1958 and 1961, the government built Project Greek Island. Dormitories, a hall for the House, a chamber for the Senate, decontamination showers, and a 25-ton blast door hidden behind ordinary conference room wallpaper. Picture it, a wedding reception upstairs, and one floor down, the plan for the end of the world. The bunker stayed operational and genuinely secret for 3 decades, maintained by a covert crew posing as resort technicians, right up until a 1992 Washington Post investigation blew it open. And once revealed, it was useless. It's declassified now. You can tour it between rounds of golf, but the detail that stays with you isn't the concrete. It's the business model. This hotel sold relaxation on the surface and apocalypse underneath, and neither customer ever met the other. Number 13, the fire nobody can put out. In 1962, a coal seam under a small Pennsylvania town caught fire, most likely from a landfill burn over an old mine pit. It has never stopped burning. Centralia's surface tells the story in fragments. Cracked, buckled pavement venting steam on cold mornings, gases rising out of the snow, streets that lead to almost nothing. For 20 years, engineers tried trenching it, flushing it, smothering it. Everything failed. Then, in 1981, a sinkhole opened under a 12-year-old boy in his own grandmother's yard. He survived by grabbing a tree root. After that, the federal government started buying the town. And here's the uncomfortable core of it. Centralia wasn't destroyed by flames. Nobody's house burned down. It was emptied by unpredictability, because no one on Earth could say where the fire underneath would go next. Estimates give the seam enough coal to burn for another century, following old mine tunnels that were never fully charted. Sit with that. The map still shows a street grid. The streets lead to vents. Number 12, towns on the bottom. North Carolina's most scenic reservoir is a flooded map of communities that no longer exist. Fontana Dam, the tallest dam in the eastern United States, went up at wartime speed in the 1940s to power aluminum plants and the secret work at Oak Ridge. The water it backed up drowned the valley towns of the Little Tennessee. Proctor, Judson. Well over 1,000 families moved out for good. Drive out of Bryson City today on Lakeview Drive, and you'll meet the aftermath yourself. A paved road runs miles into the national park, enters a tunnel, and simply stops. Locals call it the road to nowhere. The government had promised those families a road back to their ancestral cemeteries on the far shore. It built the tunnel, then it quit. For decades, descendants have crossed by boat instead, holding decoration days at graveyards on the hills above the drowned towns. And a cash settlement in 2010 finally closed the broken promise, generations late. From the overlook, Fontana is scenery. From the shore, it's a promise still sitting on the bottom. Number 11. The Lost Mine Maps. America's worst mining disaster has no exact death toll. And that one fact explains more about what's under Appalachia than the explosion itself. On December 6, 1907, blasts tore through two connected mines at Monongah, West Virginia. The official count was 362 dead. The real number is higher because miners routinely brought unrecorded helpers underground, including boys, and the company's paperwork tracked coal more carefully than people. Picture the hillside cemetery there, row after row of the same date. That's the closest thing to an honest ledger this disaster ever got. It helped force the creation of the Federal Bureau of Mines. But the deeper problem outlived the reforms. Across the coalfields today sit tens of thousands of abandoned mine entries, many with maps that were lost, falsified, or never accurate in the first place. And the consequences keep surfacing. Ground sinks under modern houses. Streams run rust orange with acid drainage flowing out of tunnels nobody can locate. Remember Centralia's fire, following workings no one fully charted? Monongah is why. The industry kept better records of the coal than of the men, or of the holes. Number 10. The rock that poisons houses. In December 1984, an engineer named Stanley Watrous set off radiation alarms arriving at the nuclear plant where he worked, before the plant had any fuel in it. The contamination wasn't from his job, it was from his house. Investigators traced it to the ground under his home in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. He was living on the Reading Prong, a ridge of ancient uranium-bearing rock running beneath Pennsylvania into New Jersey and New York. And the radon levels in his living room rivaled a uranium mine. Think about what that means. Radon was a known hazard for miners. Nobody expected it in a family room. The Watrous case rewrote national housing policy and created the radon testing industry because the lesson applied everywhere. Across Appalachia, invisible gas seeps up from ancient rock through basements, and your exposure depends entirely on geology you have never seen and cannot feel. It varies house to house. Unpredictably, keep one phrase in your pocket: ancient basement rock. It's about to matter much more. The oldest stone in the East bills its tenants invisibly. Fires, bunkers, drowned towns, lost maps. That was the human underground, all of it within living memory, all of it at least explainable. That layer is done. We are past the easy half of the map now. What's left is where water, bones, and rock kept records people never did, including one record that's still being written right now. In motion, the instruments can catch, but the theories can't hold. Number 9. The river that vanishes. A river in West Virginia sinks into its own bed, disappears under a mountain, and comes out the other side with a different name. The Lost River runs through Hardy County until it hits a spot called the Sinks, where it drains down into the rock beneath Sandy Ridge and is gone. 2 miles away, on the far side, a full river comes up out of the ground, and the map calls that one the Cacapon. In dry summers, you can do something strange here. You can walk the empty riverbed, bleached cobbles, no water, while the actual river runs somewhere beneath your feet, in the middle of a mountain. Dye tracing settled the question long ago. The two rivers are one. That part is confirmed. What's not settled is the geometry, because the exact route those passages take through the inside of a ridge has never been mapped. Nobody has seen it. The surface map shows 2 rivers. The territory contains 1. The state named both halves because the middle refuses to show itself. Number 8. The map that isn't finished. One quiet Virginia valley has kept cave surveyors busy for more than 60 years, and they are still not done. Burnsville Cove in Bath County looks like ordinary farm country from the road. Underneath runs one of the most intensively studied cave systems in the eastern United States, anchored by Butler Cave with over 17 miles of surveyed passage, managed by a conservation society and closed to casual visitors. Picture the work itself: volunteers hauling tape, compasses, and instruments through passages no tourist will ever see, sketching the map foot by foot, weekend after weekend, for entire lifetimes. And here's the part that should stop you. Most studied still means unfinished. New passage keeps turning up. New connections keep being proven. Remember the Lost Sea at the start of this list with its unfound far wall? Same condition, different state. Parts of what's under the eastern United States are still being discovered, not by satellites, but by people on their hands and knees in the dark. Everyone thinks the age of exploration ended. It didn't. It just moved underground. Number 7. The cave that fought 2 wars. One cave in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, supplied gunpowder to the Civil War and Ice Age bones to modern science, and both archives are still down there. Organ Cave, near Ronceverte, runs more than 40 surveyed miles, which puts it among the longest caves in the country. Walk into its historic section and you'll see something genuinely strange. Original wooden saltpeter hoppers, built by Confederate workers in the 1860s to leach gunpowder chemicals out of cave earth. Still standing in the dry dark, intact after a century and a half. Tradition says troops sheltered and held church services down there too. That part is local memory more than hard record, so take it as tradition. The mining is documented fact, and it sits on top of something far older. Ice Age animal remains have come out of these passages, including giant ground sloth bones tied to the earliest days of American paleontology, the era when Thomas Jefferson himself was puzzling over bones exactly like these. Think about the stacking, a war archive resting on a bone archive, in the same darkness. This cave kept everything anyone ever left in it. Number 6. 1,000,000 heartbeats in one room. At the southern tip of the Appalachians, one Alabama cave holds the largest winter gathering of gray bats on Earth, and you are not allowed in. Fern Cave, a vast pit system in the Paint Rock Valley of Jackson County, is a national wildlife refuge, with entry locked down tight, because its hibernation chamber shelters over 1 million endangered gray bats. Imagine that ceiling, a living surface of packed bodies. The winter population of nearly an entire species concentrated into one room underground. That protection is the established layer, and the species recovery over recent decades leaned hard on this single site. Then came the turn nobody wanted: white nose syndrome, the fungal disease that has killed millions of American bats since 2006, reached Alabama. Biologists watch the colony every year now, and the long-term outcome is honestly unresolved. This is not manufactured suspense. The uncertainty is real, and the people counting are worried. So much of one species hangs on one room that almost no human will ever see. The most important room in Alabama has no door for you. Rivers, surveys, bones, bats, the underground as a living archive. Still being read. 4 entries left, and the archive is about to get much older. What remains leaves human time entirely. A buried sea, a river older than the mountains, a basement 1 billion years deep. And at the very bottom, something that isn't archive at all. It's current events. Number 5. The Boneyard under the Salt. A small Virginia town that seasoned the Confederacy's meat sits on one of the richest Ice Age boneyards in the East. Saltville earned its Civil War nickname, the salt capital of the Confederacy, the hard way. Its brine works were so vital that Union forces attacked twice to destroy them. That history is on the signs. What's under the town is stranger. The salty marsh that drew the industry had been drawing life for tens of thousands of years first, because mineral licks pulled in Ice Age giants. Mastodon, musk ox, species that no longer exist, coming up out of the Black Valley muck in digs stretching back over 2 centuries. Now, sit with the argument. Some researchers say certain cut bones and early dates at Saltville point to humans here long before the accepted timeline, which would rewrite when people first stood in these valleys. Other archaeologists dispute the evidence, and the fight is still live. The fossils are confirmed. The interpretation is a battlefield. This town mined salt for one war and evidence for another, the academic kind. Number 4, the ocean in the basement. The most consequential thing under Appalachia in this century is mud from a sea that died 390 million years ago. The Marcellus Shale is a layer of black rock lying a mile or more beneath tens of thousands of square miles of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, and New York. Geologists knew about it for generations and wrote it off as worthless. The gas was down there, but locked too tight to get. Then, around 2008, horizontal drilling and fracturing matured, and a buried layer nobody could see redrew the visible world. Picture it from a farmhouse kitchen table. A lease agent with a contract, then pipelines coming across the fields, boom towns, royalty checks, lawsuits, some of the fiercest land fights in modern Appalachian history. Entire county economies and political identities now run on the chemistry of an extinct seafloor. And the argument over the costs is not ending soon. But notice what the fight is actually about. Every side is arguing over what the basement contains. The postcard shows farms. The deed shows mineral rights. And the mineral rights are winning. Number 3, the river older than the mountains. The river named New may be one of the oldest rivers on the continent. Older than the mountains it flows through. Look at a map and something is off. The New River runs northwest, cutting straight across the grain of the Appalachians, sawing through ridgelines that turn every other river aside. Now, stand on the New River Gorge Bridge in West Virginia, 876 feet above the water, and understand what you're actually looking at. A river cutting down through rock, exposing what's underneath layer by layer instead of going around. Rivers obey mountains. That's the rule. This one appears to predate them, holding its course while the mountains rose beneath it, its channel working like a saw held against slowly rising wood. Geologists accept that the river is unusually ancient. What they still argue about is the number, with estimates running from tens of millions of years to far more, depending on the method. The precision is unsettled. The crossing course is the receipt. The mountains rose. The river ignored them. 2 left. Everything so far sat inside these mountains. The last 2 are the mountains themselves, what they're standing on, and what they are still, right now, doing. Because the final entry is happening a few miles beneath the surface as you watch this, and there is no explanation on file. Number 2, the mountains are the stump. The Appalachians, you can see, are the leftovers of a range that once stood as tall as the Himalayas. The deepest layer under all of it is Grenville basement rock, crust roughly 1 billion years old, forged in the assembly of an ancient supercontinent, and you can touch it in ordinary Blue Ridge road cuts. Think about that. Stone older than complex life, sitting beside a Carolina highway. On top of that foundation, 3 separate continental collisions stacked the range, ending around 300 million years ago when Africa slammed into North America. And here's where 2 earlier entries come back. The rock sheet riding over Cades Cove, and the uranium-bearing stone poisoning. Pennsylvania basements, both are pieces of this same buried architecture. Which leaves the obvious question, where did the missing miles of mountain go? They're still here. ground down over hundreds of millions of years and washed east as the sediment that built much of the Atlantic coastal plain and seafloor. The beaches are the mountains, relocated. You can stand on the Appalachians at Myrtle Beach. Number 1. The ground that hasn't finished talking. Here is the thing that's still moving. Beneath East Tennessee, from around Knoxville down toward northern Alabama, runs one of the most seismically active zones in the eastern United States, a steady drumbeat of small earthquakes, and occasionally a moderate one, like the 2018 magnitude 4.4 near Decatur that rattled buildings all the way to Atlanta. Picture seismograph needles twitching under a landscape marketed as the oldest, quietest, most finished terrain in America. And eastern quakes come with a catch. Old, cold, intact crust carries energy efficiently, so they're felt across far wider areas than western quakes the same size. Now the part that makes this number 1. The quakes come from deep in the basement below the rock sheet from Cades Cove, below the billion-year stone from number 2, and the faults producing them have never been identified at the surface. Ever. The leading idea is that ancient buried structures are reactivating under modern stress, but researchers openly disagree on the mechanism and on how large a quake this zone could produce, and the forecasting is honestly limited. No doomsday needed. The honest version is strange enough. Every entry on this list showed you something hidden but recorded. The final layer is hidden and unwritten. The mountains everyone calls ancient and finished are a few miles beneath your feet, neither. The postcard Appalachia, ridgelines, foliage, overlooks, turns out to be a thin lid over flooded systems, burning seams, drowned towns, a billion-year basement, and ground that still moves for reasons nobody has pinned down. So tell me in the comments about the one near you, the cave, the sinkhole, the dry riverbed, the patch of ground outsiders drive right past, because those are the ones we're hunting next. Subscribe so the next investigation finds you, and the one on your screen right now is already waiting.